Plaintiff, Crystal Yugoshaku, says she was raised by a single mother, and she never really knew her father. Crystal claims a year ago the defendant reached out to her, claiming that they may be sisters, so she petitioned the court for a sibling DNA test. Defendant Latoya Ames says she has some memories of her father, but she never understood how he could go such long periods of time without seeing her. Latoya claims she reached out to Crystal after she saw Crystal's name in her grandmother's obituary, and she truly believes they are related.
All rise. This court is now in session. The Honorable Judge Greg Mathis presiding. You may now be seated.
And you all are here to determine sisterhood, is that correct?
Yes, that is
All right,
correct.
give me some background, Crystal.
All righty. Judge, thank you so much for having me today. I'm such a big fan. I am here today because I was raised in a single family household by my mother, who held it down, being an amazing, strong woman and a role model to me. When I was born,
Only you?
I have an older sister.
Child?
I have an older sister.
Okay.
Yes. Yeah, it's just
Growing
her and I.
up. Mm-hmm.
So growing up, I just never knew my father. I had, some recollection from knowing him from the ages of 8 years old to 11.
What do you remember?
I remember him calling, and his my grandmother, his mother, pretty much writing letters. My mom always briefed them on school pictures from me, and she would write letters.
He lived out of state?
I'm sorry?
He lived out of state?
He actually lived in Washington, D.C., and I lived in Maryland. So we were only about 45 minutes away.
What county were you in?
I was in Montgomery County.
Okay.
Yeah.
You were bougie living in Montgomery County?
Exactly.
No uppity self. Your mother wasn't that poor, had y'all in Montgomery County? You living a life, going to the best schools. So how did things work out for you? You only talked with your dad from 8 to 11,
yes,
as you can recall.
Yes.
Was that your earliest memory of him at 8?
Yeah.
So 8 to 11, you knew he was around and you were communicating. What happened after that, age 12 and beyond?
Nothing.
Nothing?
Nothing.
Just kind of drifted away from
Drifted away. I think my personality is when I got disappointed, and I kind of bring that into adult years. If I've gotten disappointed and excited about something and it's a disappointment, I just wash it out of my memory until you meet someone and they're like, where you get this Nigerian last name, girl? You're not Nigerian. And I'm like, well, here's the deal. My mom married my sister's father, blah, 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 blah. And then it will come up into conversation, and far as I know, I deal with humor to kind of compress my feelings and my emotions. And, I just said always, he could have a slew of kids and I would never know. I've worked in Georgetown for 7 years.
Would you care?
I'm sorry?
Would you care?
Would I care? Of course. Yeah, I'm a human. I do.
You worked in Georgetown, you were telling me.
I worked in Georgetown for 7 years, so I ran DC. Events, I could walk past him, and would not know. So that's my only memory.
Got it.
Yeah.
And did you finish school? Tell me how life turned out for you.
I was in a theater. I was a Palms cheerleader. I stayed active. I went to Tampa for fashion design and marketing. I moved back to Maryland to take care of my mom when she had a stroke. I am her primary caregiver right now, but I do live in New York City, so I am kind of a free spirit. I go home, make sure things are taken care of with her and her health.
What borough do you live in?
I live in Manhattan. What are you about to say?
You saying anything? I know you don't live in Harlem. They won't let you live there. We don't let elites. We don't let elites live in Harlem. Well, then again, y'all done took over Harlem. I was there last week. Can't find nobody that look like me. Go ahead. Like downtown Detroit now. They took downtown Detroit over the white community and ran black folks out. Black folks don't, if you see them downtown, you ask them what they doing there in Detroit. And downtown, when I worked there, was about 90% black. I worked downtown at City Hall for about 15 years. And gentrification came. We're so glad that Dan Gilbert primarily, I'm giving him his props, from Quicken Loans and owns the casino and owns the Cleveland Cavaliers. He bought 70 buildings, I think 90 now, in downtown Detroit, renovated them all, invested $4 billion in Detroit. And so he started that, and that's how Detroit came back. Unfortunately, a lot of the poor and working class people who lived downtown and the taxes were lower, well, suddenly when the buildings go up and the redevelopment starts, so there's your housing taxes and you can't afford them anymore, so you move out, and then those middle class buppy and yuppies, meaning young professionals and young urban professionals is yuppie, black urban professionals is buppy. That's what we used to call each other, buppies. And so it's all yuppie and buppy now. And all the working class folks are out of downtown. So Harlem is the same way. Those brownstones that were abandoned and went for $20,000 in the 80s, they're how much now? $1 million, $1.5 million? County were you in?
I was in Montgomery County.
Okay.
Yeah.
You were bougie living in Montgomery County?
Exactly.
Oh, uppity self. Your mother wasn't that poor, had y'all in Montgomery County? You living a life, going to the best schools.
Plaintiff Crystal Yogoshiku says a year ago the defendant reached out to her, claiming that they may be sisters. So Crystal petitioned the court for a sibling DNA test.
All right, you give me some background. Where are you from?
So I am from PG County in Maryland.
Okay, good.
My mom, that's who raised me. You know, I wasn't particularly close with my dad when I was younger, but every now and then, I would go over my grandma's house because my dad, lived with my grandmother. And, when I would go over there, you know, I spent a lot of time with her. And when my dad would come over sometimes, he would take me out, and he was very proud to have me, you know, and he would introduce me to all his friends, but there was this, I just didn't understand how you could go so long without talking to me or being around me. You know what I mean? I wish.
How long would you say between the age of your earliest memories of him and, say, 18? When you became an adult, how often did you see or hear from him?
I would say when I was younger, I know it was a period in my life where I would go over there at least once a month. But when I turned 10, I stopped going over there for a very long time. And it wasn't until I was about 14 years old where I could learn how to take the bus for myself and stuff like that. And it wasn't really about me going to see my dad as much as me going to see my grandma. But he was there, you know?
And
so,
why did things change at age 10?
I'm not sure why things changed. My dad, I've talked to him about it, you know, but in his mind, you know, he didn't have a car and we lived so far, you know, but you can call me. So that's the reality.
Was he addicted to drugs?
No.
Okay.
He's not addicted to drugs.
Well, a lot of times, you know, things like this don't really make sense to me and if you're in your right mind, but that's typically the case.
Yeah.
And since the 80s, most child abandonment has been as a result of cocaine epidemic. And now it's the result, what we're seeing now is the abandonment of the children of opioid addicts. Otherwise, you don't see that in normal people. Right. So when you don't see normal things, there's something abnormal going on. Yeah. Could be drugs, could be just don't think right, however you want to characterize that, whether it's mental illness or you just don't think right. Or you just, you know, have different skill level. I'm trying to find everything other than you're not that smart. All right. So you tell me, how things turn out for you. So age 14, you start catching the bus over, but you will see your father over there at your grandma's. When did you stop seeing him over there?
I never stopped seeing him over there. My daddy lived with my grandmother, like my grandmother's whole life. And my grandma was born in 31, you know? So I think that for me, when I used to think about him, I used to think he didn't actually want children. He's like Papa was Rolling Stone, like he wanted women, but because my grandmother took such care of him, he never wanted a woman in a committed type of...
See, that's something wrong with him. It's just all you do with your life is chase women. That's a sex addict. That's a psychological thing. And so you should be more compassionate toward him. He wasn't addicted to drugs. You could have just said it.
Hey.
You said, no, Judge, he was addicted, but it wasn't no drugs. Just make it plain.
Yeah.
He was a sex fiend. That's why he wasn't in your life. At least he wasn't a dope addict. All right, but how old is he now?
My dad is 68.
Well, he should be in your life now.
Yeah, now he...
Go ahead. He ain't the man that he used to be. Go ahead, ma'am. Tell me how the trail for siblingship, if you would,
And I just
began.
wanted to piggyback. You know, my mom always said, do not go for the mama's boy. Because I think that's what it was.
That's what you did.
But anyways, I digress. So last year, I was... Latoya reached out to me on Facebook. And the way that Facebook works is if you're not friends with that individual, that message will go into like a hidden, ignored folder. And I didn't see it for a whole year. This April, I went into that folder randomly for something else, and I saw her message. And
Now, that DM, direct message,
Yes.
you went into somebody's DM.
in my
You
DM.
just posted, you went into your DM.
My own DM,
To see
like-
who went into your DM.
Yeah, with all the spam.
All right,
all the
go
spam.
ahead. You saw her name in your DM.
Yeah.
So what?
So because I'm in the element of fashion, so I didn't know who she was, but I read the message and it said, I saw your name in my grandmother's obituary and I think you're my sister. My heart dropped, my everything. I didn't know what to say. It was confusing. But also, who puts my name in an obituary? That has to, something has to give. So I went into her page, because her page was kind of open, and I saw a picture of her when she was like 7 years old. That's when I kind of broke down and started crying because she looked like me when I was 7. Exact image. It was probably like 9 o'clock in the morning when I read all this and all this happened. My mom is still asleep, so I didn't call her. I'm calling my sister. I'm calling all these people like, look at this girl. Like, this is what she said. What? So long story short, we go back and forth on message, and we ended up seeing each other in my next trip to Maryland, which was maybe a month later. We never talked on the phone. I have my reasons because I kind of feel like I'm a people person. I wanted to kind of see before we have a conversation and talk for hours about how this could be. But when I finally approached my mother about it and FaceTimed her, I ended up finding a picture of her father on her page. And I said to my mom, does this man look like the guy that you met, that you dated briefly for 3 months? She said, that man looks nothing like the person I know.
When you don't see normal things, there's something abnormal going on.
Yeah.
Could be drugs, could be just don't think right, or you just, have different skill level. I'm trying to find everything other than you're not that smart. All right.
Plaintiff Crystal Yogoshiku says a year ago, the defendant reached out to her, claiming that they may be sisters. So Crystal petitioned the court for a sibling DNA test.
Now, did you show your sister's picture as well?
Yeah, both.
I'm proclaiming that.
Yes.
Well, I don't know it to be a fact.
Totally.
You showed your mother that.
First, yeah.
And what did she say to that? She didn't say you used to look like that at 7, or you didn't say, Mama, I look like this at 7. Are we related? What happened?
Yeah, I said, Ma, look, like we look alike.
How
And
did she respond to that?
Oh, she completely said that's true. Like, for sure.
Agreed.
Like, forehead, eyes, smile, everything as a child. And I saw a picture of her at, what she looks like as an adult.
Right.
Definitely. But I didn't know, because I'm going off of my mom saying, like, who's this man?
What again? Your mother said what again?
My mom said, who is this man? And if that was the man that, approached her, I want to be here, is what she said.
All right. And so where did you all go from there?
When we had our conversation at dinner, we probably spent like 5 hours.
Talking about what?
Talking about everything. She talked to me about her relationship with her grandmother and how great she was in the community and
Your personal lives.
personal life. Because to me, I feel like it's our relationship. I didn't want to say anything to bash this person, meaning my father, to her to like hurt her feelings. I'm also older than her, so I kind of wanted to come as like a mature adult, but not to claim we are sisters, because we were in limbo. We weren't sure. So we enjoyed ourselves.
Tell me some of the interactions, how they began, and what's your take on them. She gave me her version. Why don't you tell me and how you felt with these interactions when they began and all the way through?
Yeah, so for me, like she said, when I seen her name in the obituary, something was like, just go to Facebook and like search this name up, like see what happens. And then when I searched the name up and I seen her pictures, I seen all of the things that she was into, I said, this girl is definitely my sister. And I go and I ask my mom, I'm like, Mom.
What type of things? What do you mean? You saw the things she was into and that gave you some insight. What do you mean?
In terms of like the things that she enjoyed as far as working out and yoga and like all of the pictures, I'm like, this is, I was fascinated by how much I felt like we had in common without me knowing her, And so I go to my mom and I'm like, hey Mom, did my dad have like any other kids? And she was like, well, he did say he had like another daughter, and I couldn't believe that she knew that. And this whole time I was thinking I was the only child. I thought I was the only child for so long. I remember talking to my dad one day, like, hey Dad, why you don't give me no money? Like my mom, she got other kids, but like you only got me. Like you can give me some money.
How old were you?
I was probably like 13.
Maybe he was giving the money to your mother for you.
Me. Me directly.
How old?
13. 13.
How much would you have expected?
I only wanted like $20. Just let me go.
Okay, just little periodic gifts to make you feel special.
Yes.
All right, there you go.
But my grandmother, she overheard that conversation and she like butt in and she was like, no, you're just the only one that comes around. And so when she said that, I didn't know what she was talking about. But like my grandmother, she's an Aries woman, like, so I was like, hey, all right.
Oh, what?
She's an Aries.
What that got to do with anything?
She's aggressive, a little bit aggressive.
I'm Aries. You're Aries.
My mom's
aggressive like what?
A little bit aggressive.
Maybe assertive. I've been thinking about that because some folks have turned aggressive around to mean violent.
No.
And so aggressive, I've ever understood it to be until recent decades, aggressive meant assertive. You're just on top of your game. You working hard. You jumping in front of everybody or trying to jump in front of everybody the best way you can, legitimately. And now I guess I categorize it as assertive, folks. Don't let folks make you feel bad because you're ambitious and you carry that ambition out with a hard hustle. That's not aggressive, that's assertive. If aggressive is bad, then assertive. Let's start using that.
So I didn't know who she was, but I read the message and it said, I saw your name in my grandmother's obituary and I think you're my sister. My heart dropped, my everything. I didn't know what to say. It was confusing. But also, who puts my name in an obituary? That has to, something has to give.
Plaintiff Crystal Yogoshiku says a year ago, the defendant reached out to her, claiming that they may be sisters. So Crystal petitioned the court for a sibling DNA test.
All right, so it's good to hear that.
Yeah, so once I did that and I finally ended up reading the obituary, finally reached out, I didn't know how she would feel about even opening that door, you know, because I'm thinking like, oh, I don't know if she doesn't want this type of relationship with, you know, our dad, or like if she feels any type of negative emotions to where she'll choose not to engage with me. But I just kind of like I shot my shot. And when she reached back out, you know, for me, I think that because I've always been like the black sheep in my family, you know, very, very different I'm very different from them. Like meeting her and interacting with her and her being so open to me and so like willing to like get to know me and wanting to, you know a part of my life. I think that that's beautiful. I think that it made me feel like it's restoring like a unity that I didn't know I needed, you know? And because I have an older sister, but I just feel like, you know, it's nice to have her too.
Good to know. And it sounds like time you met each other, you had a strong energy going on there. I believe in energy or spirituality, however, supernatural, whatever the case might be when folks are drawn together. Like you're thinking about somebody, next thing you know, they call you. And so that's energy. And so I say that to say that's what had you all drawn and talking. Also, similar personalities, you say. And I am convinced that personalities are genetic in some cases. I've seen it over and over and over. Blood relatives with the same personality. And I don't know if you have the same personality or not, but you certainly have the same father.
All right.
Have a good day.
Thank you.
Congratulations.
All right. I feel really good. I'm so happy. I don't want to cry right now.
Yeah, you guys can stay right there.
Okay.
Just stay right next to each other. That's great.
Okay. I'm so happy. I'm so happy. Your outfit is so cute. Okay. It's so pretty.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm really glad. I feel like I have like the big sister I always wanted, you know? Like, I feel like I can get a lot of advice and support, like, you know, and I'm happy for that. I'm grateful.
You can call me anytime.
Yeah.
24 hours, yes.
Yeah.
If we are not in the same state, we will make it work